Ukrainian defense forces continue to rewrite the rules of modern warfare. Deep, massive strikes continue to escalate the conflict directly onto Russian territory. The invading army is suffering record losses, leading the Russian command to make desperate decisions to maintain its fighting force, including the recruitment of citizens from India and Cuba. Explosions shake Russian military facilities, and the occupiers' supply lines in the Sumy region have been severed. Learn more about today's top news in this broadcast. The strategic landscape of the conflict is rapidly changing as Ukrainian aerial systems now concentrate their power deep within Russian territory. Over the past month, these drones have struck a staggering 66,500 enemy targets, an almost 11% increase compared to the previous month. Notably, nearly 40,000 of these operations involved kamikaze drones, demonstrating their precision and destructive capability. The impact is being felt across Russia's vital infrastructure. In a recent attack by the Ukrainian Defense Forces, a large fire erupted at a factory in Novosibirsk, Siberia.
The number of tasks performed by robotic ground systems has almost doubled, indicating increased attention from commanders to this critical component of unmanned systems. The advantage in using FPV drones remains on our side, although the enemy is doing everything possible to achieve parity. General Oleksandr Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, on Telegram.
These deep strikes are not just symbolic. They are aimed at paralyzing Russia's military-industrial complex and its ability to continue the war. Constant attacks on oil refineries and other key facilities are creating a tangible strain on the aggressor's logistics, directly impacting the supply of fuel and resources to their forces on the front lines. The flames consuming distant Russian industrial facilities are a direct consequence of Ukraine's evolving and increasingly effective drone strategy. While strikes hit deep behind enemy lines, Ukrainian troops are simultaneously applying relentless pressure on the front. Recent reports confirm that the defense forces have successfully cut off Russian units from critical supply lines in the Sumy region border areas, leaving them without essential provisions, especially water. Russian troops reportedly deprived of necessary sustenance are now forced to collect and drink rainwater from puddles to survive. This strategic maneuver relies heavily on Ukrainian drones, which have effectively blocked all ground lines of communication and supply routes for the Russian northern grouping of forces positioned near the village of Yunakovka. The human toll for the invading army continues to be staggering. Russia reportedly suffered record losses in 2025, with over 1,100 military personnel eliminated in a single day. Overall, the total combat losses for the Russian army in Ukraine have now exceeded 1.1 million personnel. OSINT analyst Yampi suggests that Russia has depleted over half of its pre-war reserves of armored vehicles and artillery, having restored nearly 4,800 tanks out of 7,342 and over 4,900 infantry fighting vehicles out of 7,121 from storage. The vast majority of more modern equipment has already been deployed. These immense losses in equipment, particularly infantry fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers, are largely attributed to the mass deployment of Ukrainian drone complexes. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, noted an abnormally high ratio of killed to wounded among Russian forces, estimated at approximately 1 killed for every 1.3 wounded, a stark contrast to the typical 1-to-3 ratio in modern warfare. This disturbing disparity points to severe deficiencies in casualty evacuation and medical support, often exacerbated by the constant threat of Ukrainian drones that create lethal kill zones on the battlefield. ISW notes that Russian commanders appear willing to accept such casualties to continue their offensive actions, especially in areas like Pokrovsk, Kupiansk, and Liman, where they have suffered the highest losses since the beginning of the year. On the Pokrovsk front, Russian forces are employing a grim zombie assault tactic, sending infantry across open fields in broad daylight, only to be neutralized by Ukrainian FPV drone operators. Insane losses force occupiers to seek mercenaries abroad. As the war drags on and Russia faces immense personnel losses, the Kremlin is increasingly turning to foreign nationals to fill its ranks. Intelligence reports suggest that Moscow fears the return of battle-hardened veterans, viewing them as potential catalysts for social and political instability, reminiscent of the 1990s after the Afghan War. High salaries offered to soldiers, significantly exceeding average Russian incomes, create a stark contrast with the grim economic reality awaiting them at home, potentially fueling discontent. The involvement of tens of thousands of convicts, between 120,000 and 180,000, who commit new crimes upon their return, further exacerbates these concerns. This internal fear is driving Russia to seek fighters abroad. Ukrainian forces recently captured a 22-year-old citizen of India, identified as Mojoti, who had been recruited by the Russian army.
I'm a student. I came to Russia to study at university, and then they put me in prison for drugs. They gave me 7 years in prison. I didn't want to sit in prison, so I signed a contract for the special military operation and wanted to escape from here. They said, serve 1 year and they will let you go home. Someone said 100,000 rubles, someone said 500,000, someone 1.5 million, but everyone lied. I had a conflict with my commander. About 2-3 kilometers away, I came across your dugout, Ukrainian. I immediately put down my rifle and said, I don't want to fight, I need help. I haven't killed anyone, haven't done anything bad to anyone. I was here for 3 days just to escape. I didn't want to fight. If possible, send me home to India.
Even more alarmingly, Russia is actively recruiting Cuban citizens to fight in Ukraine. Ukrainian intelligence warns that up to 25,000 Cubans could soon be fighting for Russia, potentially forming the largest contingent of foreign mercenaries. For many Cubans struggling with severe economic and energy crises, the promise of around $2,000 per month, a sum drastically higher than the average Cuban salary of about $20, is a powerful motivator. Some recruits report being deceived, believing they were signing up for construction work in Russia, only to find themselves on the front lines. The war in Ukraine continues to be a multifaceted conflict, characterized by Ukraine's innovative drone warfare, Russia's escalating human and material losses, and the desperate measures employed by Moscow to prolong its aggression. From pinpoint strikes deep within Russian territory to the shocking reality of foreign mercenaries, the events on the ground reveal an unrelenting struggle. The world watches as this historic conflict reshapes global dynamics and challenges conventional notions of warfare.
Ukrainian drones continue to destroy Russian military infrastructure and change modern rules of warfare.